Hi, I am Michael Bean. I'm an acting teacher. I've been an acting teacher for almost 20 years now. I run a number of different projects. This is your free lesson for myfreeactingclass.com. And if you want to know more about me, or if you want to see videos from past lessons, you can find them at myfreeactingclass.com, including our lesson from last week with Marina O'Shea, a talent agent based out of the UK, who's got a lot of really solid stuff to say. There's a bunch of cool stuff on there. Today is a continuation of a lesson from last week. Last week, we talked about, where I talked in detail about deliberate practice. This gentleman right here, Anders Ericsson, and his work around building expertise. You know, he passed away, I believe, just this year. And he was sort of the expert on how to become an expert. And so if you want a little refresher on that, you can go watch the session on deliberate practice and the elements that make up focused deliberate practice. One of the things that complements that, and initially I was planning to cover them both together, is goal setting. And so today we're going to be talking about goal setting, specifically in the context of acting. I'm going to talk about acting in we're talking about goal setting in a little bit of a broader context. I'm throwing in a couple of links into the chat window. The K. Anders Ericsson articles are what we talked about last week. And then today I'm going to be using a blog post by a man named James Clear. Fantastic name. Like, you just got to wonder if it's a given name or a chosen name, with somebody who talks about goal setting and practice, whose name is James Clear. And so I'm going to use a post of his about goal setting as a foundation. And so I wanted to have a link to his blog in case you are inspired by his ideas and you're like, oh, great, that seems like a good place to go and sort of expand further outwards. He has a book as well that I have not read, so I cannot recommend, but his ideas are nice and clear. So let's start by just kind of doing a general overview. And again, using James's book as a foundation, right? So here's the image he leads his blog post with, which I really love, right? That if you know where you're going, then of course you're more likely to get there. And so top level with goal setting, what is goal setting? Super straightforward. It's picking the thing that you want and going there. Especially in terms of acting, I think one of the mistakes that people make is they think about the result that they want. And so much of that is going to be completely outside of your control. So particularly if you want your goal setting to be particularly if you want your goal setting to be something that's going to increase your felt sense of agency and sort of put you on track as an actor, especially if you are not sort of asking a teacher or a coach to sort of hold your progress and benchmark for you and say, yes, like you are so much better than you were last week, or last year. If you are trying to track that for yourself, then figuring out how you want to break that down and measure that is going to be really important, because otherwise acting is so subjective, and always requires you to manage a fairly high degree of uncertainty and discomfort in your body, that even as you get better and better and better at that, it will still probably feel similar. And this is true in a lot of the students' experience that I talk to, and a lot of the actors' experience that I talk to, where they're like 10 years later, after 10 years of focused practice, they're like, yeah, I don't know if I'm better. Like, I mean, I watch video of me from 10 years ago, and yeah, I'm way better, but I don't feel like I'm better, because what they're focusing on is the felt experience. And I don't think that that's a useful measurement if we're going into goal setting. The other article that I wanted to share with you, and I can put a link to this in the in the notes when I post this on YouTube. But this is an article written by a woman named Rachel E. Herring, and you've probably heard this SMART goals as an acronym. And I think it's sort of squeezing a little bit. I really liked her ideas, and so I want to start by sharing those with you. Specific, attainable, measurable, progressive. Right, so what precisely is it that we're talking about? Specific. So I want to be a better actor. I work with young people, but I would say that even often with adults who are new actors who come into my class, they'll say, I just want to be a better actor. And then when I ask, well, what does that mean to you? What is it that good actors can do that you can't do right now? Can you break that down, or can you explain what it is to me? Often there's this look of bafflement where they're like, right? That again, it's a feeling. They're like, well, I just want it to feel a certain way. But if you can't articulate it, then it's much less likely that you'll be able to get there. So specific, attainable, does the goal lie at the edge of the current student's current skill level, right? So that idea of the measurable, how will the trainer and the student know whether the goal is met? And progressive, how does the goal fit in with previous and future goals? Right. So if you imagine a circle of everything that you can currently do, if you choose something that's right here in the middle, it might be really satisfying, but it's not likely to make you grow. And if you do something that's way out here, the likelihood that you'll be able to succeed with it, and even if you succeed, like sometimes I'll get somebody in class, they'll be like, well, the scariest possible thing for me is this way out here. And I'm like, cool, okay, yeah, if you want to. And if I give them the right exercise, or like the stars align and they hit it that day, then they're like, oh my God, yes! But the likelihood that they will internalize that and be able to do it again the next time, very, very, very low. And so that's why, I personally, as a teacher, I recommend shooting just for the edge of, just outside the edge of your circle, right? Of course you want this stuff. Of course you want like Meryl Streep in Sophie's Choice or whatever it is. Like you want just like rip your heart out or make everybody laugh until they fall over. Great. Absolutely. If that's what you want, go there. And just coming back to specific, attainable, measurable, progressive, right? So is it specific? Is it a specific thing? Here's what good acting looks like to me. Is it attainable? Is it something that, yeah, with a little bit of practice or a lot of practice or support, I can probably hit? Is it measurable? Like, will I be able to know that I've hit it, by looking at it? And is it progressive? Does it build on the things I've already got? Or am I just like throwing goals out in wildly different directions that are unconnected with it? I want to be able to do improv, and I want to be able to do stand-up, and I want to like perfect camera technique so I know where my eyes are moving at all times. Those are all great goals. They just pull in radically different directions and don't necessarily build off each other at all. Like I would say that definitely performance in wildly different disciplines does sort of like an athlete who's cross-training, like it does inform your work, but it's not sort of top-level goal-oriented behavior. And I don't do a lot of this with my students, so I'm excited to have this lesson and to have all of you kind of noodling with me on this. So if we're going to go back to the James Clear article, one of the things that he talks about is he uses the metaphor of rudders and oars, which I quite like. Right, so as the goal is the rudder, and then your system is the oars. Right, so the rudder on a boat, and I mean it is sort of like a suspiciously white and classist metaphor, but still there it is. Right, I don't know about you guys, but like I didn't spend a lot of time on boats growing up. So the rudder is the thing at the very back of the boat that steers it. And the idea is that if you keep flipping the rudder, around, if you like this goal, no, actually this goal, no, actually this goal, no, actually this goal, then your boat goes, you go around in circles, right? That picking a single goal and moving towards it, you're more likely to make progress. And then your system is sort of how you get there. He talks about a couple of tools, that I think are really useful. He said one of the things he says is ruthlessly eliminate your goals, and he's definitely not the only person I've heard say this. It's there's a famous sort of Warren Buffett quote, to the effect of he's again suspicious reference because he's a multi-billionaire white dude from the States, but this piece of advice of write out 20 of the things that you want for yourself, and then eliminate all but the top 5. Right. So the idea is that goal competition is one of the things that really gets in your way. And so as you're making a list of goals, that you, whether the rudder metaphor, is right for you, or the like, I got to circle what my top level goal is, but picking that single goal and that you are moving towards is just likely to help you make more progress. And that's the kind of thing where if you were doing if you were in a discipline that was more rigorous, acting is so organic, that you often have to, either a teacher has to, or you have to sort of parse out and go like, well, this piece of it, this piece of this organic thing, that's what I'm going to focus on right now. Because that takes me towards this goal I've articulated for myself of, I want to be a better actor. Here's the piece that seems to take me there. And then the system that you put in place to get you there, the metaphor there's the oars, right? Like that, if you don't have a system, then, you're just kind of paddling this side and that side periodically. And, the more your system is in place. And in terms of building that system, the way that you stack your goals together, right? So you're like, here's this goal, like here's this thing that I say already do, right? Like I already have this thing that I've got in my life, or this habit, or this thing, right? Like I always I don't know, something simple as like I always brush my teeth at night. And so it's like, cool. So like what I want to do, is 5 minutes of sight reading practice, because I just want to get so good at sight reading that I'm not worried about memorizing anymore. That's the specific technical skill I'm focusing. So I'm just going to do it, right after I brush my teeth, 3 to 5 times a week. Now, something that I really liked in this James Clear article, and one of the things that I wanted to add is to set an upper bound to the goal. Right. So one of the things that certainly I do for myself, but I see actors doing, is they say, well, at least X number of times a week, and then they whip themselves if they don't actually do double that. And so I'd never seen that in goal setting before as a recommendation, but I liked it. To go like, cool, I'm going to do that 5 minutes after I brush my teeth, at least twice a week, but not more than 4 times. So that you are setting goals that actually fit your life. I think if you went and looked at personal training literature, and it's been quite some time since I looked at that in detail, but it's one of the long ago jobs I had after college. And what they would say back in that world is like the best workout's the one you'll actually do. Right, and that over time, like the one you'll actually do trumps like the most amazing, detailed, like scientific, super awesome one. Right, the best workout's the one you'll actually do, and so you can set up your environment for that. Now we've got such a short span of time here, and I'm going to keep thinking about these ideas, and I think I should want to try and get some of them written down, just so I've got some of these key points just in a place that I can show people and say, look here, just scan it over, look and see if is your goal specific, is it attainable, is it measurable, is it progressive, right? Like, have you decided what good acting looks like, and then pulled apart the pieces. And so there's some last sort of tools that I want to drop on you, which is this idea of stacking goals and setting an upper bound, come from James Clear. Anything that gets your environment set up, visually to remind you of your goals. This is why, Post-it notes and people like writing things on their mirrors with dry erase pens. It's such a big part of most goal setting literature. And I know it seems super straightforward, but the reason that people talk about it is because it works. We have competing goals. Like, especially when I think about wanting to be a better actor, I do have 20 things that I want to get better at. I really do. And so if I want to pick one, and like smart me of Tuesday is like, this is the one. Tuesday me is going to need some backup, because like Wednesday me is going to read a new scene and like have some cool idea, or watch a show and be like, oh my God, Candy was doing this super cool thing with her eyeballs. And like, how do I do that thing with my eyeballs? That's really interesting. And then like only a week later, I'm going to look back and go, oh wait, yeah, Tuesday me had this one thing that he wanted to focus on. And we just totally lost the thread on that. Right. That basic idea of goal competition. And I think that, When I'm talking in these lessons or when I'm talking with students, in very broad terms, goals kind of often fall into sort of four basic categories. And this is me taking the like organic mess and just putting a frame over top of it. So if it doesn't work for you, God, put your own frame on it. It's all good. But camera, or technical skills, definitely like require attention if you're going to be a film and TV actor. Storytelling, right? Understanding story, looking through a script, seeing where the changes are, and there's a set of things that can go with that. Believability and expressiveness, which I've talked about, in these lessons fairly consistently. These two things that are both very important with film and TV acting, but seem to pull in different directions. And so what I would love to do is ask you, when you think about yourself, to just noodle with me a little bit, unpack a little bit. What does I want to be a better actor really mean to you in terms of goals? That sort of basic question of, when you think about, like a good actor, like imaginary you of a year from now or 5 years from now or 10 years from now, like what can he or she do that you can't? What is it that you want to be accessible or possible for you? Because if it is still in the realm of, I don't know, it's a feeling and I'll know it when it's real, I just want to reflect back at you that 10 years from now, probably good acting will still feel every bit as uncomfortable, and growing will still feel every bit as uncomfortable. And so, like, it's a feeling and I'll know it, not measurable, not specific. It's not that it's bad. Hey, if, like, whatever gets you there, right? Best workout's the one you'll do. And if you wanted to like just play with these ideas, starting to noodle out loud, and know that whatever you say out loud when I ask you right now, this goes into your list of 20, and maybe that's the one that like gets ruthlessly cut. I wanted to, with that in mind, I wanted to read a quote from the blog, rather than show you the whole thing. There's just this one quote that I thought was really useful. Our lives are like rose bushes. As a rose bush grows, it creates more buds than it can sustain. If you talk to an experienced gardener, they will tell you that rose bushes need to be pruned to bring out the best in both their appearance and their performance. In other words, if you want a rose bush to thrive, then you need to cut away some of the good buds so the great ones can fully bloom. I talked to somebody, I shared this with somebody, and, oh yeah, fruit trees are the same way. And a bunch of other organic examples, where it's like, it actually creates more than it needs, just like we do when we're like, what do I want with my life? And so figuring out, how to parse it out. Julie Patzwald, who taught at my school for years, and is now passed, but like she very, very skilled actor, and like very thoughtful and sensitive human. Would say that she would just take a Sharpie marker and she would write her single goal on the top of each one of her audition sides. And then when she walked out of the audition, she would just ask herself, did I do that one thing? And it would be something like, I'm going to remember what color the reader's eyes are, or right, like, so that she was like noticing that level of detail, or, like some specific technical thing, or like, I'm going to breathe, so that she could ask herself, like, did I breathe? And Julie was at the time one of the most skilled actors that I knew. And so I think that she found her way intuitively to a version of this, parsing out, like choosing a single goal at a time, in an intuitive way without needing to do this work of top level stuff. But so Candy, for you, when you think about, like, I just want to be a better actor, what does that look like? Just noodle with me, if you would.
So what it would look like to be a better actor.
Yeah, if you
I
had to
think,
put words to that.
I don't know if this quite fits, but really consistency in actually keeping up practice. I feel like great actors just do that, and like every day, like it's always on the brain, and I feel like it's on my mind, but there's like some sort of internal block that I have that's like, I don't know. So I'm trying to figure out how to get past that block and
Do you
doing
remember?
something. consistent. And that idea, like it's been in my mind, and there's something like I'm like, I know I could do this.
And then if you did that practice, right? Like, so future you who's like, yeah, got the practice locked down, figured out my
I do that
system.
every day, and I
What,
can say that
like,
confidently.
what can they do? What can that future version of you do that you right now wants to be able to do or can't do yet? Like, so imagine the performance work of future you. You know, what does it look like?
I think to be able to just be completely confident when I'm on camera and be like, yes, I did this and I'm happy with it, and not question it.
Ah,
That
see how
makes
you,
sense?
yes.
Not
So
question my
thank you so
performance.
much for the example, Candy. Is it okay if I dismantle them both just a little
Yes,
bit?
yes,
You know,
yes.
so I would say that your first goal, by not giving yourself an upper limit, you've essentially set yourself up for failure, because what you have said is, until I practice every day all the time, I'm not a real actor, right? Like, you know how when they're getting people to meditate, they say just do 5 minutes a day. So your goal, is so, because it has no upper limit, there's always going to be something to beat yourself up with about there. Right. And so it's like, but now what's underneath it, which is like, sounds to me like, I don't know, like a technical thing. Like, I want a system. Like, I want, to have a system for myself. I think is a fantastic goal. Yeah. And I would just caution you to set an upper limit on it so that you don't whip yourself for not doing it every day. Again, back to that personal training metaphor, the what was just like common knowledge in the field back when I was doing it, is that most people after New Year's would come in, and they would come every day for a week. And then the next week they'd only come 2 days. And then they would be so disappointed in themselves for only coming 2 days when what they really wanted to come was 5. They would just never come again. And so as a trainer, like the information that we got was like, make people agree to only come 2 days a week. Like, you have to tell them they're only allowed to come 2 days a week, because they're hungry for it. They want to. And if they jump right to 5, it's not going to be sustainable. And then they're going to hate themselves, and then they're going to stop completely. Right. Like, you got to give people something they can do. So that's my first thought there. And then the other one, is that I want to reflect back to you that you've essentially set as your top level goal, like, I'll feel it. Right, like the way that I will know my work is good is when I never feel uncertain. And I'm not there yet. I don't know any actors who are. So just throwing it out there that you might want to parse that one apart a little bit. Right, that the basic idea of being able to do confident work, um, if you just look at it and make it a little more specific, and you're like, I want my work to be very confident. I don't want other people to think that I'm uncertain. Fine, great. Yeah, totally doable. I know lots of actors like that. I don't know any actors who never feel uncertain about their own work. I actually think uncertainty is a very important part of the process. So I'm not smooshing your goals. I think your goals are excellent goals. I think that you might want to refine them into something that supports you in moving towards them. Yeah. And thanks for being brave and letting me noodle with them. What about you, Eve? Would you be open to sort of sharing what your answer to that would be?
I think I'd like to be able to analyze my performance, but not while doing my performance, because then I feel like I'm not present and it automatically just makes it worse, you know?
Okay. So it's really like being able to analyze the performance that is the thing that's got your attention right now.
Yeah, but I don't want to be thinking about how well I'm doing or if I'm
No, I
doing it
understand.
right well in the
Afterwards.
scene. Yeah, then I
And
feel like I'm not even in the scene.
right. And so analyze, do you have a sense of like analyze for what?
No, just save all that other stuff for when it's done, because then it's done,
No,
and then
I understand. I
can
mean, so after the scene, when you are analyzing it, if that's your goal, like, what would that give you? And what would that look like? In terms of like, what would you be able to analyze? Do you have a sense of what those specifics are?
Yeah, I could just see, if I was able to get that arc of the story, or portray the arc of the story in the right way.
Okay.
Instead of thinking of it at the time.
Right. And so Eve gave a tangible example of like a single specific thing. Right. I'm interested in the arc of the story, making sure the arc of the story is there. And so that's what she would take with her Sharpie marker and write on the top of her script: arc of the story. Right. The more specific your goal is, the more likely you are to be able to bring your attention back to it. Yeah. And then the more likely I think you are to make progress with that specific thing. Whereas, again, if you decide to eat the whole whale, if you're like, well, I'm going to analyze everything because everything needs analyzing, right? I'm going to analyze the arc of the story and whether I'm believable and like what my face is doing, what my eyebrows are doing, and if that like thing is happening with my chin, and if I remembered all of my lines, and like where I am physically, and of course, like, yeah, there's a lot of different things to look at, in a scene. It might be useful, at least, and this is just me noodling, I don't know, like you're going to figure it out, like what works for you. It might be useful to pick one thing like arc of the story and keep your attention on it for a while, and know that of course you're still going to notice 27 other things, but to put your attention there and see what kind of results you get. What about you, Shanda?
I have some money, but I have picked to stay impulsive, to recognize my own musicality, and be when I fall into those patterns, and to just really, just breathe in the moments and allow them to be whatever they're going to be.
Great. And so one of the things that I want you to hear, in Shanda's goals is that they are stacked. Right, that she listed a couple of goals there, but there are different things that sort of supports her main goal of being impulsive. And like we could unpack it and go like, okay, well, what specifically do you mean by impulsive, or like how would you measure it? Like how would you know, if your work was impulsive? I'm curious to know the answer to that now, if you wouldn't mind.
I think it would have to be a combination of watching my videos and a little bit about how it felt, but I think mostly it would be on the expressions of the people watching. When I know that I'm really impulsive, I'm getting a different response from the people who are like, because they're in it. You can see that they're in it, right? Which is not something that you get when you're on camera all the time. So I don't really know how to do it without an acting class or an instructor or someone like that. I don't know how to judge whether or not I'm getting there without some third parties there.
And I don't know either. Like, would it be could it be as simple as if the seeing how the intention of the line like changes moment to moment through the scene? Because that seems like something like measurable that you could track. It's like, so did I stay on the same train for a minute at a time, or was
but I think you can force that. That's something as an actor I can push it out without it actually being an impulse. I can just say, I'm going to do it differently now.
Yeah, new tactic with every line.
Yeah, right. So so that's why I said if we're not judging by feeling, I might still have to. I can watch it myself, and I'll know because I'll see that my eyes aren't doing the thing. Right.
Right.
My eyes aren't there.
Right. That you have like tangible behavioral tells that you've learned, from like getting feedback and watching tapes, and also like being in class where you're like, oh, okay, it felt like I wasn't in it. There, I can see what my eyeballs do.
Yeah, great. Exactly.
I'm so glad that you were here because I don't want people to come away from this particular lesson thinking that just because there's some kind of guidelines for these goals that setting them is easy. Like acting is still this like fantastic, organic, deeply personal thing, that ultimately when you do it, you're going to need to put a bunch of these pieces together. And so I hope you can hear in Shanda's goal and the fact that although she's got lots of detail, she's still figuring it out. And although I've got lots of experience coaching, I don't have a real clear, here's what you should do with your goal. Like, I know exactly the thing, that would fix that one specific thing, because it is, because it's a complex system. And so I think that it's just useful to keep bringing our attention back to, can we make it specific? Like, how are we measuring it? Right? Are my eyeballs doing that thing? boom, Chanda could track that. Like she could be a scientist of tracking that if she wanted. She could be like, she could go and like label your videotape and be like, my eyes did that thing for 19 seconds, and next tape I'll do it for 17 seconds, and that's going to be my goal. Is it's like 1 second shaved off my time, right? Like a competitive swimmer or something.
I used to count how many times I blinked.
Yeah, right, like that.
So I go, oh, I blinked too many. Like, so that tells me that I'm out, that I'm thinking, I'm directing myself, that I'm not in the moment because I'm blinking way too much. I'm thinking about my lines, or I'm thinking about something else. So I would actually like count all the blinks and go, this take was slightly better. This was half the number of blinks.
Beautiful.
Okay?
That's a
that works too.
Clear example of something that is genuinely measurable, that you can look at your work and track over time. And of course we're going to be noticing the feeling. Of course we're going to be noticing the feeling. It's just that, how would you quantify that? Like, honestly, even if you made a system for like, here's how I'm feeling, I'm going to rank it out of 10. Isn't there really a risk that like you of Wednesday would look at that system and go, no, I need a new system. Me of Tuesday had no idea about feelings. My feelings have changed now. Whereas having some of those technical things that, like blinks, or like as simple as, I'm going to do this many repetitions. Yeah, I think I've told some of you that one of the things that I've been tracking with my scenes lately to see if I can notice a substantial difference is I've been tracking how many times I practice them. It's been a long time since I've done that, right? Like it feels like almost like a beginner actor thing, but I realized I didn't have good information. I'm like, is there a difference if I practice my scene 30 times or 50 times? And I don't know yet because I'm recording it. And so I'll just make one little check mark each time. And when I get to 5, I'll make a little circle around them. And it's kind of like giving yourself a gold star for doing the scene 5 times. But it's also giving me a way to track by looking at different scenes or different taped auditions and going, how did this one feel? How many times did I practice it? What were my results with this, and how many times did I practice it? So as simple as it is, that's my measurable thing right now. Is literally as simple as, how many times did I go over it? And can I use that to make myself go over it more times than I normally would? Just to see what I get out of that experience. And I think that I would, that at the moment, if I was going to answer that question, I would have just as hard a time with it. Like, what does good acting look like for me? It looks like more expressiveness. It looks like me watching my tape and seeing more nuance of human expression that is closer to what I see when I see video like this, where I am speaking just off the cuff, right? And so there are tangible things. There are ways in which I move my head, and ways in which I move my hands, and ways in which I move my face that I don't see as much of in my audition tapes as I would like to. And so my benchmark for that, and maybe that's another like easy way to measure it. I think I gave this advice actually last week, as I like take video of yourself. Like, get a friend to just like surreptitiously grab a video of like 1 minute of you just being you, like where you don't know they're recording. So you have that to go like, oh yeah, that's me being totally believable and expressive, because like I don't know anybody's watching me. And you can like work your way there. So I have these videos and sort of me witnessing myself in Zoom lessons where I get to see my face quite a lot as my benchmark. And then I'm looking at my self-tapes with that. And so my measurable thing at the moment is how many times I'm going over my scene. And my ultimate goal is to move towards a more personal or more authentic or deeper kind of expressiveness, right? So like big, broad, non-specific words, but what I am using to measure that is, do I look like as much Michael Biehn in my tapes as I look like when I am just watching myself on video? Like, that's something I can kind of track. Okay, that's a lot of good noodle. Thanks for staying a little bit overtime. And look forward to sort of continuing the conversation. Tomorrow we'll be looking at a scene. I don't believe we've got a guest for tomorrow. And then Thursday we've got Annalise and Aaron joining us to talk about the real life of a casting director from the inside. So, thanks for making time today, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This was great.
Bye.